Hi everyone, welcome back to the Robertson Media Center at UVA. Today we're going to continue our tutorial on DaVinci Resolve by talking about basic editing tools and techniques in the program. Again, this video is intended for beginners and only really covers enough to get started. So here we are in DaVinci Resolve again, and as you can see down in the bottom here, I am in the Edit Workspace. This is where you're going to do most of your editing. If you take a look around, I have all of these assets in here already. This is a project that I have fully edited. If you were to bring something in, there are a couple ways of doing that. You've already imported your footage, as you saw in the last video, so all you need to do to bring something in is to drag it and drop it in. And that will drag and drop the entire clip. So this is my Rickroll here. And then if I hit play, I can watch it. I can move it around with the default tool, which is called the selection tool, just a regular mouse, or the arrow, A for arrow. But let's say that you don't want to bring in the entire clip. Press delete. I can remove that, the delete button. Let's say I only want a certain section of it. So I can come over here and figure out which section. Up here, you can see this is that, again, the preview window before you even bring anything in. So you can actually preview it. Say, oh, this moment, I can mark it in or press I. See, that's when I want it to start. And that's where I want it to end. I can go to this button called Mark Out. And then if I were to drag it in, you can see it only brings in the part that I've marked in to out, right? So that's one way you can start editing up in advance. So you don't have to actually cut anything once it's in the timeline if you pre-cut everything in the media window. So you can then, click these and drag them to figure out exactly where you want that in and out point to go. And then when you drag it in, you can see now it's a little bit longer. So you can edit things beforehand and bring them in. I'm going to delete those. The other thing you can do is you can drag in just the video or just the audio. So as I hover over this image here, you can see I can drag in just the video, or I could drag in just the audio. That can be useful if you just want the visuals for B-roll or something, and then underneath it you're going to put some other type of audio. Or in this case, it has a song in the background, right? Rick Astley. So I could bring in just the music from that clip instead of bringing in both the music and the video. So that's how you bring things in. Let's see what else you can do with this selection tool. So when you select, you'll notice you're selecting not only just the video here. Down below, I have linked audio. You can see it's a little link symbol here. And that means that this intro recording is a meme. Originally coined by Richard. This intro recording has a synced set of audio that goes with the video, which means that when my lips move, as you can see in this video, that the audio is going to happen at the exact same time and not become unsynced. Really useful. You can also see that some assets don't actually have that. So this text one, for instance. You can also see that certain ones were brought in without it. And again, if you brought in just the video here, it wouldn't have the audio along with it. Now you can rearrange these things onto different layers. So I told you this center line kind of divides the video from the audio. And as you can see, I have multiple layers here in both the audio and video. As I move through, you can see there's several times where I've used more than one layer. So you can rearrange them. If you click and drag, you can pull them onto different layers. So this one could go all the way out there or keep going. Right? I can keep adding more and more layers if I wanted to. Bring that back down here. And then you could also add more and more audio layers if you would like to. And this is how you rearrange. So if I go back out to the end again and I bring in a little bit of Rickroll, and then I say I want this portion here, I can say, oh, even though this part comes later in the video, I want it to come first. So I drag it up front. So now I have this first video, which is near the end of the original source, followed by the beginning, which could be really useful in certain situations, especially if you think about interviews or things like that, where you need to rearrange in order to tell the right story, not necessarily tell things in chronological order. So I could even stack them up on top of each other. And now both these sets of audio are playing at the same time. However, this top video is the only one that we will see, unless you added effect or lower the transparency, things like that, where you could see both of these at the same time. And there are certain situations, such as split screen, for instance, that you would have both videos stacked on top of each other. It's also a situation like text. You can see I have some text here on top of this video. And since it's transparent, otherwise you see the video underneath with the text on top. So that's the arrow tool. One other thing that you can do with it is actually start to do your edits. This is the primary tool you'll be using. And you can actually grab the end. So let me go back to the end here. And you can pull it in different directions. This is called trimming. Trimming means that you're not like splitting a clip. You are actually dragging one of the ends in or out, right, to shorten the clip. So if I were to bring in this entire Rickroll here, then I could actually grab that edge and trim down to what I want. That's another way of editing. So you can either mark in and out before you bring them in, or you can trim them afterwards with the arrow tool. One other tool you'll be using quite a bit is it's called the blade tool. B for blade, and that's what you're going to do to cut. So as you saw with the trim tool, right, you can kind of extend, but let's say you want something at the beginning and then you want to cut out the middle and you want something from the end. You're going to have to cut it. So if you select the blade tool or press B, you can actually divide clips up into smaller chunks. And if you go return to your selection tool, you can either delete them, right, or rearrange them, for instance. You can kind of put them in a different order, and you can keep whichever ones that you would like. Let me undo that and show you how to delete something. So if I select it, as I said before, you press the little delete button on your keyboard, and that makes it disappear. But as you can see, it doesn't actually remove the area between these two other clips. So one way to do this is you can actually just select the area and press delete. That only works if you have that complete empty space and there's no like audio or anything underneath. The other thing you can do is hold Shift Delete when you're deleting it. So if I press Shift Delete, you can see it actually removes that empty space automatically. And then, so it removes the clip and shifts everything over. So that's Shift Delete. Otherwise, you could just delete the empty space, or undo that. You can delete it, and then you can select everything right after a certain point and shift it all over. So you can see the way this works. For instance, if I wanted to get rid of this peanut butter jelly time here, and if I press delete, then I'm going to have to zoom out and select everything and shift it over. If I undo that, I can delete, I can select this empty space here, zoom in a little bit, I can press delete and that does it for me, or Shift Delete, and that shifts everything over automatically for me. Let's say though that this is the exact point that you want to insert something. So if I wanted to, for instance, put another video in here, let's put in lolcats here. If I were to select it, and I can click this little insert clip, and what it's going to do is going to place it exactly right there and shift everything over. It's another way to add things in if you are working inside of an already established edit. Let me undo that. Let me show you what this other one does. Overwrite clip. So that's going to put it on top and remove what was already there. That's the difference between these two. Now let's imagine another scenario in which we have everything all together and all of a sudden we realize we don't want the audio from this. Maybe that song is getting too annoying, for instance, or something like that. Well, the problem is it's linked. Remember we talked about linking, so the audio and video are linked together, and if I try to move it, the whole thing moves. I'll undo that. So there's a couple ways of going about this. The easiest is remembering Alt or Option on a Mac. If you select with Alt or Option held down, you can see I can select it individually. And that way I could select this one and delete it, and select this one and delete it, and then I can keep just the video. That is the absolute best way of doing it for an individual clip, because then you're not messing with the sync of everything else. One other way of doing it, I'm going to undo this, in a certain situation might be something you want to do, is to actually turn off linked selection. So you can see how if it's white, it's selected. If it's gray, then it's unselected. And that means everything is unlinked. Kind of a scary, thing to have happen if everything becomes unsynced. And you probably just want to leave that on and use Option or Alt to select individual clips to either keep or delete. You can also right click and you can uncheck linked clips, and then that one keeps just these, and so you can move them around and put them in a different location if you would like. So that's 3 different ways to link or unlink your audio and video. Right next to that link selection, you will see this is called snapping. When I move a clip around, you can see these little grayish white lines show up, and these little triangles are showing you where it's aligning it to. This is automatically telling you where something should be aligned. It's called snapping, and it's really useful in most situations because you can tell it, oh, hey, I want it to end up right, just exactly touching where this Charlie Bit My Finger begins. And I know that there's not going to be like a black frame for a couple frames that it kind of goes to black, or there's a gap there, and you don't want that, then you should leave snapping on, and you can see which one it's snapping to based on those little tiny triangles as I move it around. In some situations you don't want that because you want to have exact control over where which frame it is down to, so if you turn that off, and if I go to my detail view, for instance, we can see if I'm dragging this around now, I can do it frame by frame and it doesn't snap to it. If I turn it back on, you can see it more detailed. It snaps right to that point. So that's snapping. Most situations you want to leave it on. So I'm going to go back to Fit All. Okay, a couple quick things that you can see inside this editor for your basic editing needs. If you say, oh, I have a very particular point, I want to remember where this is, you can create a marker. These are right here, this little blue markers, or you can hit the keyboard shortcut M. If I select there, then I create this marker here. And then you can return to it anytime. This can be useful if you have if you're trying to track a beat of a song, for instance, or if you have something you need to return to and re-edit, you can create these markers. And then if you right-click here, you can also say remove all markers, or you can just remove this marker by selecting and deleting. So you remember in this preview window up here, we were able to create in and out points. You can also do that on your timeline itself. So let's say, oh, I've got these kind of pieces at the end that I don't want to include if I'm going to export, or if I'm putting it on loop, for instance, then you can create an out point. And that's going to say, oh, this is the end of the project or the end of the clip that I'm looking at for the moment. And from there, you can also create an in point here. Again, the keyboard shortcut I and O. Just make sure you are doing it over in this window, not up here. Okay, so coming up next, we're going to talk about basic audio and transitions. Stay with us.